reports just confirm that Madden will be coming back to the Nintendo platforms on the Nintendo Switch 2, and I think that's pretty interesting. Now, a lot of people don't care for Madden. Honestly, I've soured on the Madden franchise along with most yearly sports games. But you got to remember that, like, Madden is still a great seller in the West. And EA obviously didn't do any sports games, well, beyond, like, FC and FIFA and stuff like that. They didn't do any Western sports games on the system, for that being the original Nintendo Switch. So to have Madden coming to the Switch 2, according to EA, I think that's an interesting topic in and of itself. I'm not going to talk about it too much because sports ball talk. I can barely talk about my Knicks on this channel. But realistically speaking, that kind of shows you how third parties are going to be with this system. I think they're going to be very aggressive. I think if there's any chance and any way of getting it onto the Nintendo Switch 2, I think that's what they're going to do. Now, I don't necessarily think a lot of companies are going to prioritize the Switch 2 version over something like the PlayStation 5 version with select games. I mean, they're probably not going to build Madden around the Switch 2 and port it to the PS5 instead of building it for the PS5 and porting it to the Switch 2. But, you know, who's to say, really? Who's to say how that is actually going to go? Kind of depends on game sales and software sales for the system. But yes, if you like good old American football, none of that football stuff, Madden is coming to the Switch too. But we have to talk about pricing with this system, because Nintendo President Furukawa did give a little bit of an update on how pricing is going to be handled. And honestly, I think it's a very positive statement. Now, this came from the shareholder Q&A portion of things, and people were asking, you know, the investors were asking about the price of the system. Now, obviously, that's something that is going to be disclosed on April 2nd, probably along with the release date as well. But looking at the current economy that we're in, looking at what the other systems are priced at right now, with PlayStation 5 being $500, the Pro being much more, the Series X being $500, but the Series S being cheaper, and of course, cheaper iterations of the PS5 and the Xbox Series. Investors want to know, like, how much is the system going to cost? Is it going to be reasonably priced, all things considered about what's going on in the economy all over the world? Well, President Furukawa said the following: not only does Nintendo have to take into account Japan's increased inflation rate, it also has to consider that the exchange rate environment has changed considerably since the Switch launched in 2017. Nintendo also has to consider that affordability that our products or our customers expect from Nintendo products. Nintendo needs to take all of these factors into account when considering the price of its products. So basically saying, you know, yes, the original Switch was $300, but I don't see that happening now. There's inflation, there's the exchange rate that has changed drastically since 2017. It's kind of weird when you really sit back and think about, like, how inflation works and how all this stuff works, because, like, money isn't even, like, really real. So that's a topic for another day. Like, I could talk about weird conspiracy stuff like that all the time, but such a drastic change from 2017, I pretty much think this is saying, yeah, you're not going to see this at $300 because, I mean, that's not financially viable for us right now. But then following it up by saying, you know, Nintendo needs to consider the affordability that our customers expect from Nintendo products. And obviously, that doesn't necessarily extend to, like, controllers and maybe even software at this rate, with $70 games looming on the horizon. I think that's more so on the hardware side, because Nintendo hardware has always been extremely competitively priced and usually is on the lower end of the spectrum, if not the cheapest system that is available on the marketplace. And that's kind of what helps them, as I wouldn't say necessarily like their identity, but it helps them, you know, get people in on day one onto their platform of choice. So I think by saying this, you know, $500, I just don't see them wanting to do that. $500 right now in this economy probably isn't considered to be affordable, you know, especially comparing, you know, something like the PlayStation 5 base disc model at $500. You're not really competitively, you know, pricing yourself in the overall marketplace. So where does that kind of leave us? I think that leaves us at the $400 price point. It's a happy medium between $300 and $500. It's right in the middle, and it's still more affordable than what the other companies are doing. Now, you could sit there and say semantics with, you know, system variants, the diskless PS4 or PS5, the Xbox Series S, but I think Nintendo, you know, having the lead platform, having the main platform that they have, you know, this not being the cheapest option, this being, you know, the premium option at the $400 price point, and then potentially down the road you do something like a Nintendo Switch 2 Lite at an even cheaper price point and stuff like that. Like, I think that's kind of going to be the move for them this generation, and I think that makes sense. You know, I think that makes sense. I really think Nintendo, you know, people, and I'm probably guilty of this too. Like, you know, I make mistakes sometimes, but when you look at like budgets of games and stuff like that, like, they've become so overinflated. But Nintendo kind of just doing their own thing, while people might have made fun of it and been like, oh, well, you know, this game would look so much better on this platform or on that platform. It's like, does that really matter nowadays? You know, the whole reason that the video game industry in the West is sinking like a stone in water is because of the fact that they have these overinflated budgets. They have these, you know, high yielding games that, you know, yes, they cost a lot of money to make. So of course we have to sell millions and millions and millions of copies. Whereas Nintendo sells 2 mil of something that took a little bit of work. And it's like, great, we just made a whole bunch more money. So it's almost like the philosophy that, you know, you don't need to necessarily be cutting edge when pushing technology is working out in Nintendo's favor. Now, of course, this is not a confirmation of the price of the system. We won't know that really until I think we'll get some leaks, you know, closer to the Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch 2. I think retailers are going to start putting up pre-order links and stuff like that. And I'm going to say I'm in the $400 camp. I know there's a lot of people that think $450, $500, and maybe that's the case, but I just don't see that happening. I don't think investors would be happy with that. I don't think Nintendo themselves would be happy with that. You know, if you got to charge $70 for more of the games to make up for the cheaper price of the system, then like, so be it. Hardware usually doesn't sell at a large, you know, profitability anyways. It's more so just covering your ass and then potentially making a little bit on top of that. So I think that is the move. But what do you think? Because I mean, really, what I think doesn't matter. If it did, I'd be sitting here talking about Ariel Hukporti, the man, the best backup center for the New York Knicks, at least as it stands right now. Let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber. Look, have PlayStation do something interesting. Have Xbox do something interesting. All Xbox is doing is putting all their shit on the PlayStation 5. Age of Empires is now coming to PlayStation 5 as well. It's like once a week, Xbox puts a game on PlayStation. It's like, holy hell, man. What are y'all doing? Maybe that's a video for another day as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Hit subscribe if you're new. Later.
Two of the biggest mysteries that is seeming to have some information seep out here and there is what is going to be happening. Two of the biggest mysteries.
Hey guys, HDV here and welcome to a brand new video. Today we've got some pretty cool things to go over. New events have been announced. We also have some Legends EA rumors to go over. And not only that, but a potential leaker has hinted at faithful Unova remakes as well. There's a lot of things to break down today. So if you're excited for the video, drop a like down below. It's trying to hit 500 likes. Really helps out. Leave a comment, subscribe if you're brand new, and let's get into the video. So, starting things off, we have this new update regarding the PokeTunes. I know a lot of you guys love them. Really, really cool. Definitely advise you to watch them if you've got some time to spare. But it does say Cerebi update, a brand new episode of the web series PokeTune is to be released on February the 14th, 2025. So that is next Friday. We're getting a new PokeToon episode. Again, really cool little animations. Really advise you to watching them if you haven't already. Moving on, we do have new events that are also now live. This actually went live yesterday, but we forgot to cover it. But basically, it's the new Emblem event in Pokemon TCG Pocket. It's the new Space Time Smackdown event. It's the 45 win event. It's not the 5 consecutive win event. And this event also runs until the 25th of February 2025, which of course is 2 days before Pokemon Day. Now, we all know that there is going to be some sort of reveal of a new TCG set on Pokemon Day, because the new set comes out on the 28th, which is a day after. So the most likely outcome is that we're going to get the trailer on Pokemon Day. We could get it a few days before, and then they might just go over it again on Pokemon Day. But because it's the celebration of Pokemon, they want to announce loads of new things. I'd put money on them just announcing it on the 27th, and then it obviously dropping on the 28th. Moving on though, these are the event missions that you can complete to get some extra hourglasses and some shine dust for Pokemon TCG Pocket. So if you participate in 1 battle, you get 3. Participate in 3 battles, you get another 3. Participate in 5 battles, you get 6. Participate in 10 battles, you get 12. So again, you don't have to win these. If you're not bothered about competitive and actually battling and stuff, then you can literally just go into the game, forfeit, still counts as a participation. If you do want to win battles though, and you do want to try and get these emblems, if you win 1 battle, you get 50 shine dust, 3 battles for 100 shine dust, 5 battles for 200 shine dust, 10 battles for 500 shine dust, 25 battles for 1,000 shine dust, and 50 battles for 2,000 shine dust. And then in regards to the event emblems, if you win 1 battle, you get the sort of regular event icon. If you win 5 battles, you get the bronze edition. If you win 25 battles, you get the silver edition. And if you win 45 battles, you get the gold edition. So that's the new event that's now live in Pokemon TCG Pocket. We are streaming it on the Pocket channel as well, going through like all these wins and stuff and trying out different decks. So again, if you want to check it out, in the description down below. You guys probably know about that by now. But either way, that is the Pokemon TCG Pocket event update. We also have a new Pokemon Go event that has also been revealed. We've got Cerebi here tweeting out saying, Cerebi update, the Pokemon Go Scattered to the Winds event has been revealed. This runs February the 18th at 10 AM to February the 20th at 8 PM local time. It also adds Shiny Scatterbug into the game, which is obviously very interesting for like the Vivillon forms and everything like that. But let's take a look at it on the actual Pokemon Go website. So the event bonuses are 2 times XP for spinning a Pokestop, 5 times XP for spinning a Pokestop for the first time. So if you're going to a new location that you've not been to before, you may as well whip out Pokemon Go and spin some Pokestops, because 5 times XP is ridiculous. You can open up to 40 gifts per day. You can open up to 60 gifts per day if you have purchased the Expedition Access February ticket. So again, a little bit more pay to win there, and then increased chance to encounter Shiny Pidgey as well. And then Vivillon flutters in, so Scatterbug, Spewpa, and Vivillon make their shiny debuts in Pokemon Go. Pin postcards from trainers around the world to earn encounters with Scatterbug. You'll have an increased chance to encounter shiny Scatterbug if you're lucky. And then in regards to wild encounters, you can find Caterpie, Pidgey, Spearow, Wurmple, and Starly. You get field research task rewards. Obviously, there's paid hard research as well. You get all this for it. But yeah, collection challenges, all that jazz for that. Moving on, let's take a look at this potential Unova Faithful remake hint. So we've got Eclipse here who originally posted saying, did you like the Generation 4 remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl? And it was a poll, and a lot of people said no, as opposed to the people that said yes. He then went and replied to it saying, well, you'll not be happy, I guess. So basically hinting that we're going to get the same sort of treatment for the Generation 5 games, or at least something is getting a faithful remake. You'd like to expect it to be Gen 5, because that'll be the next ones in the line. Now, I just want to reiterate that Eclipse is not the most faithful leaker out there. They've gotten a lot of things wrong in the past. They have got a couple of things right, though. So they have some sort of source. But the majority of what they say does tend to be wrong. They did say things like Legends Arceus was a CD or something, and obviously turned out to be one of the best Pokemon games we've ever had. And that's just one of the things. They've said multiple things that are wrong, but they have said, like I say, a couple of things that are right. So you never know. But this is basically what they're saying here. So we have Soul Silver also saying, I'm totally down with an Ilka-made Pokemon Black and White 1 faithful remake made specifically for the Nintendo Switch 2. All I need is 1 or 2 new Pokemon, so Mythicals, Original Dragon, Special Forms, etc., and possibly just old Mega Evolutions returning. I really think the Pokemon Company will have heard the negative feedback from Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and they'd want to improve on all the issues BDSP had and give us a little more than just a reskin of an old game. Especially if this would be made by Pokemon Works, which is Game Freak times ILCA, which would allow for them to have some creative liberties instead of just a copy and paste game. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with this. In regards to the Mega Evolution thing, we know that Legends ZA is probably not going to have online battling, so we're not going to be able to use these Mega Evolutions. So maybe Mega Evolution is incorporated into Generation 5, and all the Mega Evolutions that we get in Legends ZA, barring Generation 6 and over, because obviously they're not going to be in Unova, are maybe usable in this new Faithful remake, and obviously we'll be able to battle online with them. So that's one thing that I could definitely see. And yeah, I mean, the Pokemon Works is completely different to ILCA as well. It's a combination of Game Freak and ILCA, so I think that they'd actually do a very, very good job. The chibi style is not a problem for me. I thought it actually looked really, really nice. I think the main issues was that BDSP just didn't really offer anything exciting. They did change a couple of things with the Grand Underground and stuff, but at the same time, you know, the Underground, what it was before in the original Diamond and Pearl games with, you know, secret bases that were so much better, capture the flag, like they just kind of ruined all that. They did keep a couple of things like seals and stuff, and, you know, Romana's Park they added in, but I don't know, at the end of the day, it just wasn't really the remake that we were all expecting, especially after we've had really good remakes in the past, like Auraz did it perfectly, Heart Gold Soul Silver did it perfectly, Fire Red Leaf Green did it perfectly. It was just kind of gearing up to be a really good remake, and then it just kind of like shattered all of our dreams. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying this is definitely something that's going to happen, because as I say, Eclipse's track record is very, very hit and miss, more miss than hit. And the thing is though, now that the Switch 2 has been revealed, they can reveal anything on Pokemon Day for the Switch 2. Again, and I can't reiterate this enough, the only reason why we thought we weren't going to be getting Generation 5 remakes this year is because Riddler Who said so. But he's been wrong about everything now. So, honestly, whatever he says, I wouldn't even be that bothered about until he starts getting some, like, legitimacy back to his name. Which, again, he's been quiet since January, so it's been over. Like, he's not said anything since then, which is quite interesting. But, yeah, either way, like I say, take it with a massive grain of salt. He might be right about this, he might be wrong about this, but potentially Faithful Unova remakes could be on the horizon and could be getting announced like this month. Like, they honestly could be. But anyway, that's all that. Let me know your thoughts on it though. Would you like to see Faithful? Would you like to see Faithful remakes if they actually changed a lot of things? So it'd be like in the style of BDSP, but there'd be new Pokemon, there'd be new features, there'd be new storylines, there'd be like a new post game or something like that. I think that would be okay. I think a lot of people would generally really enjoy that. But let me know your thoughts on that, because it is quite an interesting topic. And then finishing things off today's video, we do have a new rumor to go over regarding Pokemon Legends ZA. This was posted on the 31st of January, so a few days ago, and it's titled Legends ZA Info by Corfi. So again, it was posted on 4chan. Take it with a massive grain of salt, but it's been getting a few kind of hits here and there on Twitter. I actually saw it on Twitter. I didn't see this one on 4chan. I think it was posted by who's it posted by? I can't remember off the top of my head. I saw it on Twitter though, and I was like, I don't think I've covered that one. So yeah, I don't know if it got took down on 4chan or whatever, but either way, it says starting off, the layout of Lumiose City is still quite vast in size and doesn't look too different from modern Lumiose. So that would obviously give me the idea that it's probably set not super far in the past. And then says Lumiose will be split up into 4 areas, being northern, southern, eastern, and western Lumiose, with 4 smaller areas where Pokemon can be found and where the gym leaders reside, each being made for different environments of Pokemon in their respective gyms. So the only weird thing about this is we only have 1 gym in Lumiose, so if it is set in the past, like what would have happened to all those gyms? Because I don't think we're going to get gyms in this game, just simply because, like I said, there's only 1 gym in Lumiose, which is obviously in Prism Tower. For me, it would just be like strong trainers, and maybe you can get forms of badges or whatever, but I just don't think it's going to be gym leaders, because that many gyms in one city, I just don't think is going to happen. And then, however, you can temporarily travel outside of Lumiose to find some Pokemon unavailable in Lumiose, similar to that of the old Safari zones, but the areas are much, much smaller. So there are 4 main areas, 4 smaller areas, and then you can also go outside of Lumiose to other areas where you can catch more Pokemon. So there's Pokemon inside Lumiose and outside of Lumiose, but it's still all kind of, I guess, known as Lumiose City, even the outskirts and stuff. But again, that makes a lot of sense to me. It just allows more areas for you to catch Pokemon. And again, I've been over this multiple times, but Pokemon that like live in the sea, they're not going to be chilling in the canal in Lumiose. It's just not going to happen. So they need to have a way to be in the game, especially with like time distortions as well. Like I think it's really unlikely for us to get, if we are getting time distortions, I think it's very unlikely that we get them in the city. I think it'd be like outside of these like sort of smaller areas, but that's just my personal opinion. It then goes on to say the playable characters are named Brooke and Charlie, so the male character being called Brooke and the female character being called Charlie. And then AZ is a twist villain in the story, but mostly acts as a background character until the change. So, yeah, I mean, AZ is like, he's not evil in the X and Y games, so maybe this is set in the past and he's evil and then something happens at the end of Legends ZA, maybe we defeat him or something and that's when he changes his ways. Because I don't think it's going to be set in the future if he's evil, because he's got his Eternal Floette back now, so it's all happy. So I don't really know why he'd randomly turn evil. Unless something happened to the Floette and it made him go crazy or whatever. The professor of this game is Professor Ignidia, who is an ancestor of Lysandra. We've got Corden, Croix, and Kinel are one of the gym leaders and are the ancestors of Cillian Cress and Chili, so some Generation 5 stuff going on there. It then says the starter Pokemon stay the same, so we get Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie, but you are gifted a second starter, much like the ones given by Sycamore, but the starters are Snivy, Torchic, and Piplup, with Snivy and Piplup gaining Mega Evolutions. So yeah, I mean, people might be like, well, that's not going to happen, because like I say, Torchic's already got a Mega Evolution, it's not going to be the starter. We have had it in the past, technically, with Auraz. Like, obviously, Torchic was always going to be the starter, because they're not going to change the starters for the Auraz remake. And then Sceptile and Swampert got Mega Evolutions. But all I'm trying to say is, you know, it's happened in the past. It's not the craziest thing to think that maybe they'll do it again, where just 2 Pokemon get Mega Evolutions instead of all 3 of the starters. At the end of the day, I think it'd just be a lot more likely that they'd all just get regional forms. So we'd get a regional Empoleon, a regional Serperior, a regional Blaziken, and then we get the Mega Evolutions for the Generation 6 stars. I think that just makes a lot more sense. But I really hope that's the case. Being able to get 2 starters and one of them having a form and one of them having a Mega Evolution, well, all of them getting it, but being able to pick a couple is really cool. And then it says 25 Pokemon gain brand new Mega Evolutions. So Raichu, Wigglytuff, Poliwrath, Jinx, Dragonite, Ledian, Azumarill, Politoed, Jumpluff, Ludicolo, Flygon, Torterra, Infernape, Empoleon, Carnivine, Lickilicky, Porygon Z, Serperior, Emboar, and Samurott. I don't know why wait, so Gen 5 are getting... Wait, hang on, I've just completely gone over the fact that Gen 4 is getting Mega Evolutions, Gen 5 is all getting Mega Evolutions, and Gen 6 is all getting Mega Evolutions. There's a Samurott, Scolipede, Gothitelle, Chestnut, Delphox, and Greninja. I don't think we're going to get 9 new Mega Evolutions for starters. I just think that's... I mean, I'd love to see it, and I feel like they should have had them in BDSP, but I think that might be a little bit OTT. It then says Yveltal and Xerneas get unique forms instead of Mega Evolutions called Complete Cycle forms, awakened by AZ in a boss fight similar to the battle against Volo. I'd be very surprised if Xerneas and Yveltal didn't get some form, some sort of new form in this game. I think it just is perfect for them to get one. And then it says there's a new Reggie that is a ghost type. So we'd have like Reggie Ghost or Reggie Ghoul. That is kind of unsettling at first glance, and it appears to be a Frankenstein's monster. We're also going to get a regional variant of Litwick, which is going to be Fairy Fire type, and is an Incense Lantern, and a regional form of the Tangela line that's bundled wires with this electric. That's cool. I really like that idea. And a regional fate for Farfetch'd named Farfenced. Oh, Farfenced that is a fencer. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this rumor. Like 25 new Mega Evolutions, 9 of them being starters. forms for Xerneas and Yveltal, new regional forms, 2 starters during the playthrough. I really like it. I don't think it's going to happen, but I really like this. I really hope it does. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this rumor. What do you think? Would you like this to be true or not? I think a lot of people would really like this rumor. But anyway, that's that. And then let me know your thoughts on the Generation 5 Faithful remakes as well, and then everything else that we've covered in today's video too. But that's everything from me. If you enjoyed, drop a like. Let's try to hit 500. Leave a comment. Subscribe if you're brand new. Ring the notification bell for daily Pokemon content. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and until next time, peace.
Well, it looks like the floodgates are certainly open now for Microsoft, and it doesn't seem to have caused a huge reaction online like you would expect when something like this happens with a big, you'd say, first-party staple from Microsoft, a pillar in the history of Xbox, going to PlayStation 5 and potentially the Switch 2. But I think that's just kind of because people are sort of to this acceptance stage almost with Microsoft. But one thing's for sure, when I say the floodgates are open, I really mean it, because I feel like we're going to hear this many, many more times throughout this year, and we're going to go over that here today. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Now, of course, I'm talking about Forza Horizon 5. It is heading to PlayStation 5 spring 2025. We don't have an exact release date on this thing. This was an update, a news post they made over on their website the other day. And it did cause some shockwaves, we'll say, through social media, but it wasn't like you'd expect, where it's like, oh my gosh, wow, Forza is going to PlayStation. Now, granted, this isn't the simulation Forza game. This is Forza Horizon. Although, I will say for myself, and I'm sure many other people will tell you, the Forza Horizon series is probably, I'm going to say, the preferred one, just because I think it's a lot more fun to play it over the track Forza games. Although, the simulation-style Forza is pretty much where it began back in 2005 on the original Xbox. But even before that, with Turn 10's formation at Microsoft to create basically a competitor to Gran Turismo. But the Forza name, the franchise, has been with Microsoft since the original Xbox. It is, to me, more storied than even Gears of War, which is clearly a franchise people look at and immediately attach it to Xbox. For me, it goes Halo, then Forza, then Gears, mostly because that's the order I remember them really popping up in. So with Forza being one of the big three, now at least making its way over to PlayStation in some regard here with Horizon, we'll see if the simulation Forza game series moves over to PlayStation. And at this point, anything's possible, because having one of the big three go over really does mean, as Phil Spencer has said, there's no red lines. And Microsoft has certainly said a lot of stuff that's contradicted each other over the last year, and then even beyond that many more times. But what started as originally 4 titles for Microsoft has now ballooned to basically anything or everything. And there's a lot of questions around Microsoft's strategy right now, which we'll get to here in a minute. But with Forza Horizon 5 going over, Panic Button is handling the port, which has, of course, led people to believe that it could also go to the Switch 2, because Panic Button has a lot of history moving some big-time games, like Doom, for example, over to the current Switch. So, sure, that absolutely could happen. Think about it, Forza Horizon 5 runs on the Xbox One VCR model from 2013, so surely it could most likely run on the Switch 2 as well. The thing that throws me off about that, analog triggers versus digital, that would be kind of an odd, I guess, experience for a not necessarily complete simulation racing game, but one that certainly would rely on the analog trigger and having different responses for the throttle, say feathering, or like just full-on pedal to the metal rolling through the fields, or just off-roading. but I'm sure it could definitely run it in terms of the technical side of things. So here we are now with Forza Horizon 5, and as we've been hearing, many other games. In fact, as soon as this popped up, we had more and more people continue to double down on other games. Like, one that apparently we need to keep an eye out for currently is Gears of War Trilogy, remasters that would be coming to PlayStation 5. I didn't see anything about, like, Switch 2, although, again, at this point, we're waiting for April 2nd to get here for the Direct, when apparently a bunch of third-party publishers can start actually announcing and revealing their games and talking about the system. And then, yeah, we could see Microsoft go off and have Switch 2 logos pop up on all these different games that are already announced. Gears of War Trilogy, though, remasters. That would actually make sense to put on a platform that's never had them, so yeah, it would make sense for PS5, yes, it would make sense for Switch 2, and yes, it would look just weird. Now, this is coming from Extas One, who they've been hot and cold with some of their information they've put out there, but I mean, if there really are no red lines, as Phil has said, and what they've proven so far with Forza now going to the PS5, yeah, I'm sure Gears of War could absolutely be going over with this trilogy to introduce the PlayStation user base to, again, a storied franchise from them. To go a bit further, Vandal also had a report that was published with Starfield, Fable, Microsoft Flight Simulator, all going to PS5 and Switch 2, according to their source. Fable is an interesting one because it's not out yet. So not only do we have games from Microsoft's past releases that are already available now on Xbox going to PlayStation 5, but games that maybe just day and date release, Xbox, PS5, Switch 2, and it doesn't necessarily matter which ones they are, whether it is a Fable or if it's something from Activision Blizzard or something from Bethesda. Like, think about right now what we're looking towards for the PS5 from Microsoft just in the first half of this year. So we have Indiana Jones, that's spring on the PS5. Doom: The Dark Ages, that's coming up in May, so still in the first half. And then we would have Forza, that also spring. So we see Microsoft indeed moving in the direction of trying to make Xbox more profitable by seeking out more people to sell these games to, where Game Pass doesn't necessarily exist, and that's been a big topic of conversation. How has the Xbox economy, if you will, the marketplace there, the consumer spending tendencies been affected by Game Pass? Because, I mean, when you see it with what they're doing now, clearly they need to bring in more money for the budgets that they're putting out, which they're holding up many, many studios right now, a ton. And that, along with Activision Blizzard, of course, Call of Duty probably works to hold up all of Activision Blizzard on its own. But still, with how much money they put out there and trying to recoup that investment, yeah, you're going to see this, I think, consistently across the board, which does eventually lead us to Halo, of course. And we can see places like Windows Central doubling down on their report that Halo is gearing up for a PlayStation debut. Nate has mentioned it as going to PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2, that being Master Chief Collection, which, once again, makes a lot of sense for Microsoft to move over if this is their plan going forward, to where the next big Halo game will appear on screen with an Xbox and a PlayStation logo bare minimum, maybe with the Switch 2 as well, and then cross-play across the board, as I think that will also be a very important staple for them in terms of these releases with the feature set, trying to have all these people play together at once. That's something they're going to be doing for Forza Horizon 5, just cross-play across the board. So in Microsoft's mind, yes, they seem like they are understanding as to where their hardware is currently, which, I mean, we see it every time they do an investors report, like they have their financials together. Microsoft in general, almost $70 billion in a quarter. Absolutely ridiculous. And it does seem like Microsoft is actually making more money on their Xbox brand, but they're selling less hardware. Now, currently, that has a lot to do with them having bought Activision Blizzard, which heavily spiked their sales report. I mean, the number obviously jumped through the roof, but now they're settling back in, and they're comparing year over year, and it's up 2%, despite hardware being down another 30%. It's a consistent number they see, where it's like down 20%, down 30% in terms of hardware sales, but the actual revenue generated is staying almost flat in that entire time frame, which sort of puts their strategy in motion to make sense in their mind. Okay, so yeah, they're going to sell less Xbox consoles as it stands now. The thing I've noticed, though, with Microsoft is, let me know if you've noticed this, it feels like every generation, well, the past 2 generations, I should say, they've had to shift strategy halfway through. Clearly, they did with the Xbox One. Their initial plan that they presented versus where they ended up with, not even close. Like, they had to backtrack a lot of stuff. The thing was, I mean, it was out of the gate with its shoes tied together. It was rough for the Xbox One, and then they shifted gears a bit there halfway through with Game Pass. Then here comes the Xbox Series, which seemed to be more of a traditional console with Game Pass attached to it, and now they're shifting gears once again halfway through, where their console-exclusive first-party games are moving to other hardware platform holders like PlayStation and like Nintendo. So it does make me think what their next generation offering really will be, if this is currently where they're standing, as it seems to affect their next generation clearly. We talk about mid-gen refreshes, their mid-gen strategy refresh almost for business. And it does kind of make sense if they are going to make less and less systems themselves, like hardware, to open it up and allow other companies to make Xbox consoles. And Microsoft really does fall back into a position of kind of where they are on PC side. They are a software company at heart, and their biggest thing on the PC side, their biggest contribution is Windows, and it's not necessarily the hardware. Sure, they do Windows and Surface and stuff, but the big thing they do is provide Windows OS for other hardware manufacturers to make PC. And I kind of feel like that might be their strategy, as has been alluded to and talked about and stuff, for next generation, where they will provide an OS level, like a console level OS that's more standardized across the board for all these companies to use, whether they want to target a lower end system, a higher end system. And AMD, I guess, just worked to create a almost universal chip, like they have the Z1 Extreme for handhelds. Maybe there'll be something like that for consoles. And I do wonder if this would drive more innovation in a sense, because you would have something like Lenovo Legion Go show up that's weird because it has almost like a Joy-Con sort of effect to it. Or then you have more standardized ones like the ROG Ally, and then they play around with the RAM maybe and the battery. And I'm trying to think of that on a on like a console level. Although I guess most likely they'd all use Xbox controllers. That's what the console OS is built for. There's so many questions around that even being a possibility in the first place. But I do think people's concerns right now, because I see people asking, what's the big deal? Why are people worried? The answer's simple. People are worried that the Xbox console itself will eventually become unnecessary, and then that ends up being the biggest expense almost for Microsoft, the R&D, the time, and the cost for it just about evens out what they sell it for. It's not high margin. So why do they keep doing it then? Why do they keep making it? Do they eventually pull the plug and say, well, we make plenty of money just providing software for other manufacturers to make Xboxes, for PlayStation and on the Nintendo system? So I understand why people are concerned around it, because then what happens to your digital library? What happens to your profile, your achievements, your friends list, all these things you've built up over what's now become decades? Yeah, it makes sense why people are concerned about it in that regard. So at this time, Microsoft says they're going to continue making consoles. It is, I'll admit, hard to take them at face value just based on them shifting back and forth with things they've said over the past couple years now. But at this time, we need to see what their next generation plan, their next generation offering is. And then I feel like we can kind of judge it from there and try to figure out where their future lies. I will say, based on their hardware sales, it actually makes sense for them to start thinking about launching next generation holiday 2026, which means by the end of this year, we probably will hear about leaks and rumors, and maybe Microsoft themselves just coming out and saying, yeah, guys, get ready. In a year, we're going to have our next generation platform ready to go and released. And then we'll see what they have at that time. But for now, every time you see Microsoft talk about a first-party game, I guess assume it's heading to PlayStation or Switch 2 in the near future after its initial release, or maybe even day one, depending on the title. But let me know what you guys think about this down below when it comes to Microsoft really getting out of the exclusives game? And do you think this is something that will benefit them in the long run? Or do you think this is them like a pivot point where they'll actually end up sinking their gaming division at the end of it all? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time. So it wasn't a great week for Sony with their live service push, and that's kind of been an ongoing thing recently, especially after the whole Concord debacle. However, this time, we got word that 2 more live service games have been canceled internally at Sony, and they didn't come out and necessarily announce it. A report dropped that then got confirmation from them, and one of these live service decisions in particular, not necessarily the cancellation, but just the start of it, is something that is leaving gamers scratching their head. And this is the weirdest part, is now it's in a position where a lot of people online feel like they could have been making better decisions for years now with Sony, despite them continuing to break records in terms of revenue. And there's a lot going on with that. We're going to go over that here today, though. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that like button and subscribe if you're new. Now, as I've mentioned, the live service push for Sony seems to be kind of backfiring on them, and it was bound to happen to where they announced that they were working on at least 12 live service games at one point, and the belief is you cast a wide net, many of them probably won't work out, but if 3 or 4 of them do, and you have strong pillars there in the live service sector, you're going to be just fine. It'll make up for all of them. Well, they're still kind of having a hard time finding even a couple big live service games that are continuously pumping out like revenue and profit. But in this case, we can see this is over on Bloomberg. This is from Jason Schreier, who says that Sony Group Corp's PlayStation has canceled previously unannounced games at 2 of its top subsidiaries, the company said Thursday. The games at Oregon-based Bend Studio and Texas-based Bluepoint Games were both live service projects designed to draw recurring revenue from players. Now, the company spokesperson has gone to say that they will find new projects for both studios, so at least at this time, it doesn't appear that Bluepoint or Bend Studio are being shut down, although we can't really guarantee that right now because they have to find something else to do, which I'll actually touch on that in a moment. But in this case, Bend Studio with a live service game, that one, I actually understand. Like, I get that, okay? So they made Days Gone, like years and years ago, and while it came out at a lower quality than what Sony seemed to want because there were bugs and glitches and that kind of thing, eventually through patches, it at least got to a position where it was a good enough game, I feel like. And so people were asking for a sequel, a follow-up to that. Well, Bend Studio internally apparently shut that down, and instead they wanted to do something else, and it seems like their pitch was a live service game of some kind. We had some art assets that were kind of put up online that seemed to show it was some sort of third-person military shooter live service game that, I mean, I guess could have, the way it looked, it's kind of like Military Outriders, at least from what we were seeing with the limited view of it. Like, there was a hub world area, and it seemed like you'd have spots